Why would you observe biodynamic influences in your garden? Well, thank you for joining us today on Nature's Mysteries Medicine Show. That's what we're going to talk about on episode 48. And this whole month of April, we're going to be talking about biodynamic gardening principles and why they are awesome for you to incorporate in your gardening for many different reasons. I'm Michele Wildflower. I am the founder and formulator for Nature's Mysteries Apothecary. We're celebrating over 20 years in business. We've received so many live video testimonials. We started a YouTube channel. We're like over 100 now. We got so many you get tired of watching them. I'm also the Director of Education at Nature's Mysteries Academy of Holistic Health. I'm a holistic health practitioner myself, clinical cannabinoid clinician, essential oil coach, nutritionist, Reiki master, and also certified in complementary and alternative medicine. And what I wanted to talk about today was the influences that astrology can play in our garden and how it can increase our yields and the reasons why you would want to use it. If you're wondering, my background's a little different today. So we just got back from a crystal digging adventure in March. We went to Arkansas in the end of March and dug all of these beautiful crystals, and it takes a while to get them all washed and categorized. So I did a show earlier on the Women's Empowerment Spiritual Awakening Retreats Facebook page, the Wildflower Woo Woo Show, and we talked all about crystals, and it felt really nice to be around all of these crystals. And so I thought maybe you would like to be around all of these crystals too for this episode. So these are all the crystals that we dug up in Arkansas, and we actually have another, well, not another, but we'll be going back again for our Rockhounds Crystal Digging Retreat. That is April 18th through the 22nd, where we're going to visit 3 different mines. It's all-inclusive retreat where all the lodging, meals, all the crystals you can find are included. And, well, we'll talk more about that later. Let's talk about biodynamic gardening for now. I just get so excited when I see all the crystals that I just want to share them with you and show you all the cool ones we got. But we'll do that in a little bit, right? Okay, so I'm also the author of the herbal textbook, Discover the Essence of Plant Medicine, the 5 Principles of Life-Saving Herbs. And that's the book that we use for our course at Nature's Mysteries Academy of Holistic Health. It is over 600 pages long, and we profile 33 different herbs in our Holistic Health Practitioner program. We talk about growing, harvesting, storing, preparations, applications, and part of what I talked about in my book was Biodynamic Gardening Principles and Rudolf Steiner. And that's what I wanted to tell you a little bit more about today. So in the early 1900s, the view of gardening kind of shifted and became mechanistic in the agriculture, in the world of agriculture. And it led to the development and use of synthetic chemicals and pesticides in farming. And obviously, right, as a result, the farmers started to see a decline in their soil's quality and the fertility of their soil. So they reached out to Rudolf Steiner. How many of you have heard of Rudolf Steiner? Type S in the comments if you've heard of him. Even if you're watching the replay, it can help lock that information down in your brain. So Rudolf Steiner is the actual pioneer who founded organic gardening principles as well as biodynamic farming principles, and he's written multiple books. He's given over 1,900 lectures to farmers about gardening and utilizing plant compounds as fertilizers and pesticides with very specific recipes and formulations that he kind of channeled, which is really cool because he's like very spiritual. He also is the originator and founder of Waldorf education for children. and also the founder of take that back, that was Samuel Hahnemann. But he was founder of Waldorf education, and so he had a very holistic view of, you know, kind of nurturing and loving the planet as well as our children in a very specific way. So he was the first to bring the perspective of a single self-sustaining organism that thrives through biodiversity, the integration of crops and livestock, and the creation of a closed-loop system of fertility. He also brought forth a unique and comprehensive approach to soil, plant, animal, and human health that recognizes the importance of the healthy interplay of cosmic and earthly influences. And with this knowledge, he developed a set of homeopathic preparations, which is what I was going to say, used by biodynamic farmers on soil, compost, and plants that help build up the farm's innate immune system and vital forces, which is what our students are learning in homeopathy right now at Nature's Mysteries Academy of Holistic Health. They're learning about how homeopathy and how gentle it can be as a form of medicine. And in the 1980s, biodynamic farmers in the northern US and used Steiner's economic ideas to pioneer the concept of CSAs. Have you ever heard of that? That's community supported agriculture. And this idea has, I mean, there's CSAs all over Vermont today. I'm not sure about where you live, but the idea actually originated in the 80s and it's been adopted by thousands of farms across North America. So that's pretty cool, right? So one of the reasons why I love biodynamic gardening for my garden is because a lot of times if you're planting a really big garden, it can seem overwhelming to know where to start. You know, like, I mean, you know what to plant first because you need to start your tomatoes and eggplants and, you know, like things like that. Squash a little later, but peppers, like you would be starting now, right? So once it's garden season, it could seem overwhelming to know which to plant first or which ones to get in the ground. You know, you might just feel like you're scrambling all the time. But by observing biodynamic rhythms, it can actually help to kind of organize our garden for us because it's kind of divided into 4 different elements. Each constellation corresponds with a certain element, whether it's water, fire, air, or earth, and the moon is actually moving through all those constellations all throughout the month. So if you're observing those influences in your garden, then you would look at where the moon's going to be and then do your gardening corresponding to that. So the water signs would be Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, right? And then the air signs would be Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. The fire signs would be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And then the earth signs would be Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. So when it comes to each of your plants or vegetables or herbs, whichever it is in your garden, you would look at what plant part you're using, and that's how you would decide when to plant it based on its correlation with the elements. So if you were planting leaves, like, you know, like say lettuce or any kind of herbs or collard greens or kale, those would be planted on water days because that's how plants take in water, partly through the leaves. So leaf days correlate with the water elements that we just mentioned of Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And then flowers correlate with the air sign because you smell them, right? So the aroma goes through the air into your nostrils, so they're associated with the air sign. And we talked about those being Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. So that would be any kind of flowers that you were planting, whether it was edible ones or ones that were going to be used as herbs, like echinacea or something like that. Then your fruit plants will correlate with the fire element, like we mentioned, that's Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And so any plants that are like your tomato plants or eggplants or squash, watermelon, literally, like cantaloupe, literal fruits, those you would plant on days when it's the fire element. And then roots correlate with the earth element, which, like we said, is Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. And so that would be like your root vegetables, like carrots and potatoes, rutabagas, turnips, anything like that. And so by planting on these days, if it sounds complicated, it's really not. You actually can get a biodynamic planting calendar. I was going to take mine down to show you, but I forgot. But I have one up on the wall that actually someone who signed up for our retreat sent to me as a gift. And it shows you the whole month, and it will show you the times that it changes into each element throughout the different days. And there's also unfavorable planting times as well. So it's awesome to be able to refer to that calendar to see if it's a favorable time or an unfavorable time. We're not going to get into that too much today because we're just talking about the basics. But you can begin to bring about a synergy in your garden by observing these biodynamic influences when planting your seeds, and also when you tend to them, either when you transplant them into your garden, right? Because like now is the time for us. I don't know about in other places, but in Vermont, even though there's a huge snowstorm going on right now, it would be the time for us to start planting our fruit vegetables. When I say fruit vegetables, I mean like, eggplants, tomatoes, squash, that would be corresponding with the fruit element. And now would be the time to plant them. So you could make sure that you were doing it on a fire day or a fruit day, whatever it says on your calendar, probably would say both and show you a little picture of fruit. And then when you were about to plant it into your garden, which for us is like halfway through June, because we could literally get a frost before that, then you would look on your calendar and make sure that it's a fire day that you're transplanting it into the ground. And if you were going to feed it or, weed it, I mean, anything really that you're going to do, if it's a plant that you were going to have to trim a little bit off of or something like that, any tending to the plant that you're going to do, you would want to do on the element corresponding with the plant. So it kind of gives you a guide for your garden for what day you're going to do what. It's kind of interesting. For me, I like that kind of guide. So you could just refer to your calendar, and then you can plan it out for the week and be like, oh, okay, this week is unfavorable. So, and that's the thing, especially if you live in the north, is you want to make sure that you check for those unfavorable planting times. And if you have to plant at an unfavorable time because it just didn't work out for you to do it any other time, you could still do it then, but just try to bring the balance back in by the times that you're feeding it and tending to it are on the correct element. So that's a way that you can bring the synergy back into the garden. And if anyone has any questions about that, you can type it in the comments and we'll try to answer all of the comments. And I wanted to show you a catalog that is, if you're wondering where you can get organic seeds, this is the Seed Savers Exchange. And you can see there is the organic symbol there. So you always want to make sure that you are planting organic seeds for not only your health, but also the health of the planet, right? Because under the ground, there's chemicals and synthetic molecules, then it's just harming more than just the soil, because there's so many organisms in the soil, the mycelium, all the trees are absorbing it. So the best thing that we can do for our gardens is to make sure that we use organic seeds, organic fertilizers, organic soil if you're using any kind of potting soil. And we'll be talking next week about some biodynamic fertilizers that you can use. Like I said, he was the pioneer of using plant compounds as fertilizers, so you don't need chemicals. And the plant compounds, not only are a great alternative to the chemical ones, but they actually, have great benefits too. The yields in the end are great, but we'll talk more about that next week. And then the last 2 weeks, we are not going to be streaming because we're going to be at our Rockhounds Crystal Digging Retreat. And I just wanted to show you a couple of the crystals that we got in Arkansas in March. We have a couple of crystal classes coming up as well if you're interested in learning more about crystals and how to use them and meditating with them and their different shapes and the properties. It's like everyone knows that, different crystals of different minerals have different properties, right? Isn't that pretty, Tanya? I know, it's crazy pretty, right? So, but, a lot of people don't know that it depends on, actually how many sides that each of the faces have as to how it processes energy. So we have a couple classes coming up where we're going to be talking about which ones that you could meditate with and how they could actually change your life, because crystals could change your life in a fantastic kind of way that we'll talk about in that class. So you should sign up for it. You can go to Nature's Mysteries Apothecary or Women's Empowerment and Spiritual Awakening Retreats, and you'll see the event there. Now, these are super tiny, so a lot of people might not think they're that great because they're real little, but for people who make jewelry and things like that, they're really cool. But what I thought was so cool is that they're like two different crystals, right? But they both have like the same exact base on them. See that? It's very cute. There's like a big one and a little one. And if you sign up for some of the classes, we'll be talking about crystal shapes and what they mean. This is another really cool one that I found. It's like pretty clear, huh? Very pretty clear. This one was kind of cool. It looks like a handle. Like it could be like a handle on a door, right? Like this would be like the kind that goes back on the door, and this is like how you open it. That would be cool, right? So we would love to have you join us. We're having a 20% off sale. You can go to naturesmysteries.com to sign up today for the Rockhounds Crystal Digging Retreat. Like I said, it's April 18th through the 22nd. And if you think it's fun when you're like in a crystal shop and you find a crystal and you're like, oh my gosh, it just like came to me, I was just like drawn to it. When you find them out of the ground, you know what I mean? Like they're just in the ground and you just find it and just pick it up and it's just like this beautiful crystal. I mean, it really makes you feel like you found it and it was meant for you, because you're literally the only person to have touched it in millions of years since it formed. No one else has ever even seen it. You're the first one in like millions of years to unearth this crystal. So it's like an incredible feeling, and we'd love to have you join us. There's a couple spaces left. The doors will be closing soon. So if you'd like to take advantage of the 20% in savings, and these are all-inclusive retreats, one price includes all the mining, all the digging, all the meals, all the lodging. It's a beautiful house that we're staying in. It has a swimming pool, so you can go swimming. It's very, very private. It's on a huge piece of property that there's no one else around. It has like really big porches, so we can like all spread out our crystals and everybody can show each other what we found. And yeah, I just want to show you one more. This is also a really cool one. Just want to show you this last one, and then I will probably sign off. But you should totally go sign up at the Rockhounds Crystal Digging Retreat. One more. Okay, this one. it has like a little diamond on it right there. See that? It's so cool. I haven't washed it. It probably would come a lot cleaner. You know, like how this one is, or this one's super clear. This one, I haven't washed that one. If I washed it, it probably would come a lot clearer, but it always looks like that kind of soft clay color, and I'm just a little attached to it that way. So it's really fun. I think you would love it. We'd love to have you join us. Go to naturesmysteries.com and sign up today for the Rock Hounds Crystal Digging Retreat. We'll see you there on the 18th to the 22nd. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a great night.